Righto. Welcome YouTube. We're live on YouTube as well now.
We seem to be missing a few of the normal people, so we might give it a few minutes, maybe, Sam.
There's a couple more here, Ivan and a few that are coming in that I missed. Jason Forrest coming in.
Are you able to? It won't let me share my screen, Sam.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah.
how do you turn that off? Hang on.
You've blocked me.
No, sorry. Hang on, I'll just do it so one participant can share at a time. That should work, shouldn't it? All participants. Is that better? Because I'm guessing who can start sharing? Was it all? Just put all participants. Because I'm guessing Peter will want to share or something at some stage. And then Ivan came in and left. He's back again.
All right, we might get started, and Brian's running a bit late, so if we get to his part and he's not on, then we'll come back to the Secretary's report. Welcome everyone to our November meeting. Hopefully this might be our last meeting where the full meeting's online. We'll still be incorporating Zoom in the new year, but I think hopefully we should be back at the hall next year. But we've just got to work out what's happening with our hall, because at the present moment, New South Wales Health have it booked until the end of December. So hopefully it's just till the end of December and we've got it back next year, but we're just not sure yet. Oh, hang on.
What's Stephen doing? Watering your puppy.
We've got a new puppy and it's out with the big dog, and the big dog just bit, but it's okay. It's fine. Don't stress. Okay, so Ben, did you want to give us a sales table report?
Yes, please.
Not too much to report at the moment. Sales or orders have gone out the last few weeks. Just at the moment, just ordering in a heap of new stock for our auction that's happening next month. So yeah, hopefully everything lands fairly soon. And if anyone does want a mail order, there should be stock there in the next few weeks. Apart from that, as far as I've heard too, there will be no seed heads this year. And at the moment, we can't get Cuttlebone either. So that's about it at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Sam, did you want to do the Treasurer's report?
I can. Yes. So we paid a fair few bills during the month. There's currently, in terms of repaying people, which is basically Ben and I for the sales table stuff that he mentioned, and also for some of the magazine stuff that you should have just received your magazine. There's about 1,200 outstanding. I'm just looking at the bank account now. There's about 26,000, just under 26,000 in the bank account. So we'd be down to what, 24,800, I guess, once we pay those bills shortly. And of course, we're just about to, money will start coming back into the account because obviously your renewals have just arrived. And I'm sure, Brian, if he gets here in time, we'll drive you mad to make sure that you renew. So there was, the major raffle and also the renewals in this current magazine. there'll be another magazine that comes out. I must apologise as the editor. The magazines have been a little late recently, but there will be another one, basically before the auction. So that is the state of play.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. And it doesn't look like Brian's here yet, so we'll come back to Brian. Did you have any government updates, Sam?
Just a sec, I'm just opening it up.
Let me stop share.
So, it's okay. I can share it if you want, but I don't think you really, there's probably no need. Couple of issues. So I met with Golden Plains Council, which is a Victorian council, to resolve some stupidity there, and that was really successful. There's actually, I'll just let a few more people in. There's 3 more coming in. That was actually really successful. Or maybe I will share it. I'll show you quickly.
Fucking keep talking.
So get it up. So that's this. So I met with Golden Plains Council. That was really good. We removed all the restrictions on domestic birds from that council. The parrot exports stuff that I guess also kind of has potential later on down the track to affect finches and so on as well. Certainly the proposal for a national registration scheme that you might have seen could potentially affect finch keepers as well. Sorry, you can't see that screen. You can now, can't you? Sorry about there. There's a few more people waiting to come in. I'll just I'll admit all. There's 3 more. Sorry, there's still people coming in. So we've had a number of meetings about that, slowly being resolved. We'll see. They're down to sort of 2 possible.
When he goes to work, if I'm
down to 2 possible options.
Yeah, Sam, you might just have to mute everyone. I think there's a few people unmuted.
Give me a second. Yeah, can you mute yourself, please, if you're there? Sorry, there's more and more people coming in. I'm not sure what's happened with David Boyd. He's kind of coming in and out and in and out. So maybe he's got a dodgy connection where he lives.
Oh, I'm here now.
Oh, you mean you're in?
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed you were. You've got the NBN, obviously, David. Mind you, it works pretty well. My place. I shouldn't say that. It's actually okay. So this is this issue here where I've got the heading parrot exports. It's actually really about that national registration scheme for birds. So we put in. You can look on CCBFA's website if you want to know the details. Basically, we're completely opposed to a return to NEBRIS. The people who are in favour of it, well, I'm not really sure 100%. I do know for a fact that Warren Ench, the MP from North Queensland, is very much in favour of it because I've spoken to him on the phone about it. There are some other organisations that I'm not sure about that may or may not be, but everybody in every federation meeting has strongly opposed any sort of national registration scheme. In terms of finches, as I said at the last meeting, it would only affect the site that, well, I presume it doesn't actually say that, but based on the meetings, even if the worst thing happened, it would be our CITES listed species. So it would be red siskins, it would be blackthroats, it would be Java sparrows, and it would be green strawberries. Not that we've all got millions of them, haven't we? Unfortunately not. So that would, obviously be a major drama for those 3 species. If you could only keep them if you were registered with Canberra, that as you know from even registering them at the state level is a major disincentive for people to keep those species. But nevertheless, we've had many meetings, and we're looking at this solution based on DNA parentage, which means that only people who want to export or potentially import birds are affected. Nobody else is affected. We expect the recommendations from this Think Place consultant to come out any minute, actually. The sooner we're done with it, the better, because the whole thing's driven me bloody mad. Townsville councils had a stupid proposal, so we put in a submission to them to basically say, which is kind of mirroring what Queensland Finch Society have done and Gary Fitt over the years in particular, but I guess also, to be fair, other Queensland clubs, basically to say exclude all restrictions, get rid of birds altogether from these local laws, and instead just require that people comply with the code of practice for aviculture that's in place in Queensland. And to be honest, that's kind of roughly the same argument that we use in Victoria as well, with limited success, I must admit, and in Queensland with limited success too, apart from one council, I think it was Logan City, where I think the Queensland Finch Society were probably, look, there might have been other Queensland clubs too, I won't verbal others, who were successful. So we use sort of Logan City Council as a model. The code of practice for bird sales is finished, but it doesn't come, the new one doesn't come into force until September next year. So you'll see flyers and things up and copies of that code distributed at bird sales during 2022. ACA is working on a whole heap of stuff. Silly puppy farm bill that's going on at the moment that was an absolute disaster in Victoria. Labor Party put that through in Victoria, and they put a similar one through in WA that really have had crazy consequences. It's encouraged a black market, and now what we're seeing is the black market dogs are essentially, a lot of our cheapo stuff, being bred that now ends up going into shelters. And now there's a whole shelter industry, and there's a whole problem rehoming these dogs, and maybe that's to do with COVID as well. So we, Michael Donnelly and the dogs and cats people in New South Wales more than me are really doing a great job with that. There's also the animal welfare legislation in New South Wales is causing a stir. If you're interested, I think probably go to the ACA website and you'll read about that. But that legislation, the real sticking point, there's a few, but probably the main one is that it talks about psychological harm, that instead of, actually having to, as a cruelty offence, and that's obviously a real problem because human psychologists and psychiatrists and doctors find it very difficult to actually assess psychological harm in terms of proving it in a court for human beings, let alone for animals. So, real sticky point, and the shooters fishers guys obviously are, really up in arms because it's like you catch a fish, the fish, does the fish feel sad, is that a crime then, and so on. So there's quite a number of possible ramifications. So that's causing a stir, but we shall see where that goes. That's it for government stuff at the moment. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. I'll go back to sharing my screen. So the next thing was our major raffle it will be in the next magazine. So here is a copy of the major raffle. So we've got first prize is the new I can't say that word, but you can see it, Finches of the World. So it's a new book, and it was kindly donated by Naturally for Birds and Gary Fitt. So that's very exciting. I think the first drop of them in Australia only went out in the post about a week ago. Second prize is a pair of Aussie yellow Gullions donated by Paul Henry. Third prize is a black throat metal sign, which is really cool. That one's donated by the Metal Bird Signs Company. Then fourth prize is a $100 Biosupplies voucher donated by Biosupplies. And last prize is 2 20-kilo bags of Avigrain Finch Blue, donated by Dennis, who's the owner of Avigrain. So we've got some really exciting prizes this year. You can purchase tickets so in the next magazine will be the flyer for this raffle, plus your renewal. And at the bottom of your renewal, you can also purchase the raffle prizes at the same time. And we'll also have the opportunity to buy them as well on the auction day. There'll be like an online spot for them. Next thing. Sam, did you have a black throat update, or is anyone else, Steve or Simon, on tonight?
I don't know. Is Steve or Simon there? If they are, they can.
Seen their names.
I don't recall seeing them come in. There's quite a number of people online now. Actually, there's 32 on Zoom, and there's a dozen or so on YouTube. So that's good. On the black throats, things are ticking away. We have had the odd report, I guess you'd say, of black throat sightings. We don't believe that any of them will turn out to be legit. Steve Sass is actually heading up there. I can't remember the exact dates, and he's going to investigate some of those sightings. So, fingers crossed, maybe we'll find some. But I'm a little sceptical, I guess. Steve's probably a little more positive about it than me. So that's good. We've also looked at, you might have seen on Facebook, I think Steve spotted it, but there was a mural which is a little more affordable. We talked about doing a big mural, and we may look at that too on huge silos, perhaps in Varel, and that may happen later on down the track. But he spotted a smaller one on the side of a building. I think it was about 5 metres by 3 metres of a diamond firetail. And we're looking into the idea of that's probably a little more manageable. That's sort of about, I think the quote was about $7,000 to get that artist to do that. So that's a possibility as well. So again, if you're interested in donating, you can search for the there's a GoFundMe, and it'd be great if agriculturists could help and throw a couple of bucks our way to get that project going. But again, we'll keep this stage of it. There's quotes and things coming in for aviaries and all that sort of stuff, but that's kind of for later on. At the moment, we really are focused on getting, we've worked on councils. I'm about to email all primary schools and high schools, although I may actually leave it till the new year because I suspect they won't even look at it this year, given what's been going on in schools, to get schools involved as well, both in terms of kids looking for black throats on their own property, but also just engaged. So we'll have colouring in stuff and all that kind of stuff to go to primary schools, likely in the new year. I think that is it on black throats.
Awesome. It's very exciting. I think even if the
he's got a greenie float, he's turned into an aviary, so I don't know what he's doing with air conditioning and everything, so I don't know what he's done.
What was that?
Not sure who knew it was. Who was that, sorry? Or maybe they're talking amongst themselves.
Okay, just make sure everyone...
Sorry, just mute me out, Maddie. I was just talking to my wife, sorry.
That's all good. Oh, Brian's there. Brian, did you want to give the secretary update?
Sure, Maddie. Not really. Sorry, apologies for being late. We had a few technical issues, but finally got round them. Nothing really to report. Just a couple more memberships just slowing down. Probably this as well, given that we've got renewals coming out in the next magazine. I noticed that's the next agenda item, and my advice there, probably in the magazine already, but put your name and your ID number, the first things you enter when you're paying, if you pay online. There's still 3 or 4
ID
people
first.
Put it, eh?
Put the ID number first.
Put the ID number first, then your surname.
The ID number is more than adequate to identify who you are.
Yeah, but some people just have to
People
write
got the same surname too.
Some people don't trust the bank, so they want to write a story, and if they leave the important stuff to the end, the banks only give you 20 characters or something, and it's a bit of a, I'm not that good a sleuth to be able to work out who everybody is if there's no name or ID number there. But that is the best way to pay. It's easier for everybody if you pay online. Checks are becoming more and more difficult to bank. But yeah, and look forward to dealing with those renewals and get them over and done with by Christmas, hopefully. Thanks, Maddie.
Awesome. Thank you, Brian. And yeah, I think Sam said the magazines were in the mail, I think Monday. So they should be starting to arrive probably now, the next day or so. So just keep an eye out for those. And then if you do pay your renewal, the next month will be a receipt. sometimes people get confused by that. So just make sure you read it, because we've had in the past like emails from people saying, but I've paid it. If you have a look down the bottom, it'll say paid. So just make sure you check that with the next magazine that comes.
Patty, just I'll jump in there. It's a good point. Thanks for raising that. But it is also your proof of membership. If anyone wants to, some clubs want to know that you're a member of a financial member of a club. And keep that, because that is your proof of membership for the next 12 months.
Yes. The next thing is the auction. So this year, because of, I think we've discussed it at the last meeting as well, because of the current COVID situation, it is somewhat slowing down and things are getting a little bit calmer, but we feel it's not really safe still, and we don't have the manpower really to do a big sale that's going to have lots of members of the public and all that sort of thing. So we'll still go ahead with an online auction this year. It's going to be held at Sam's warehouse in Richmond, because we don't have the hall. And this year, instead of it being the first Sunday of the month, it'll actually be the second Sunday, the 12th of December. It'll be the same layout as it was last year. Drop the birds off in the morning, and then in the afternoon, we'll have different pickup points that you can pick up the birds. And I think we were going to negotiate with the Brincats again a price that they were happy to pay for birds, so that if you didn't want to pick up your bird, if it was handed and it didn't sell, that you would just get that price given to you from the Brincats.
But you're different to last year. So last year we said, no, bad luck. If your bird doesn't sell, if your birds don't sell, they're being definitely sold to the Brincats. Yeah. Whereas this year we're saying, no, you can come back in the afternoon.
Yeah. Just
pick up any unsold birds. And yes. I know that was a reason, I believe, that some people didn't enter birds. They felt that they weren't going to reach their reserve. So, and the other thing is, you can put whatever reserve you want on your birds. So, obviously, if you're going to put $200 on a pair of ruddies or something, well, they're just not going to sell. But you can do that if you wish, and then come and pick them up in the afternoon. Otherwise I think it's the same as last year, isn't it, Maddie? Really?
Yeah, I think so. And then we'll send out like the forms to be filled out a few days, like a week or so prior. And if they can be to us probably by the Friday night, or the bulk of them to us by Friday night, that way we can start uploading them onto the website, getting all the information there, so that in the morning on Sunday we can just take photos and go straight ahead. Obviously, if there's a few like late last minute things, that's all right. And as Sam said, this year we do have a bit more flexibility of people coming to the warehouse to pick them up, whereas last year I think we were restricted. The hall could only have like 20 people max, so we kind of told everyone not to come back to pick up the birds. So this year it is a bit more relaxed in that element. We do have a write-up about it again in the magazine this month. And does anyone have any questions?
Who's going to load the stuff onto the website? Are you going to do that, Maddie?
Yeah, me or Sam can do it. I don't mind to do it.
Because maybe people could send them in a bit sooner than a week and give you a bit of a head start instead of having to do it all on a Friday.
Yeah.
I pretty much know what I would put in the option now.
It didn't actually take that, because we've got all the, maybe I'll just share my screen quickly again.
Yeah, I think we had somewhat of a template the last time that we just had to add in.
For instance, so this is the, can you see? So this is the website here, and it's already got, so this is the actual 2021 auction.
You're going to have to mute everybody, because
I'm not sure why people keep being unmuted, because there's once I share the screen, it goes a bit weird. There's still I think it was Justin. It just ended. So all these, I mean, we might have to change some prices and things. I'm not sure. Ben will go through it all. But that took ages, obviously, to take photos and put all those up. And you'll see there's one lot here that's sitting there And we kind of copy that and change the bird and change, you know, obviously if they're not starfinches, change the price and all that. So I think it'll be reasonably quick. Well, it was fairly quick, wasn't it, Maddie? And we got a bit of a routine going last year too. You know, take the photo up, boom, 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 you know.
Yeah, I think it took like a little bit to get our feet, but once we did, then it was quite quick. We got into a pattern of it.
Yeah, so it's as much in advance to make sure that we don't have too many.
Yeah,
I guess, which based on last year is probably unlikely.
The other thing that we're talking about is the photos. You're going to get people to send you photos, or how's that going to work? If you don't, for the birds that aren't at Richmond, or we're not,
yes.
Or all the birds going to be at Richmond.
Well, they don't necessarily. We're saying that people can, you know, maybe they need to let Maddie know, I suppose, if they want to sell bird, you know, like if they live at Whoop Whoop or somewhere and they like to enter some birds, but then they would certainly have to do the same thing, put each pair in a show cage, take a photo of them, so that we've got those. But they'll need to contact us beforehand, won't they, Maddie, those people, because we'll need to get carry boxes to them and work out whether I'm sure the shipping will be able to rocket science, but just to know it well in advance for those people in country areas that want to be involved in it.
Yeah, so there is that option this year, but if you do want to do that, we just need a bit of a heads up, probably a bit more than a week, just so we can organise all the shipping and all that sort of things. And we'll still, I think this year we'll have the courier service people again. We'll get in contact with them when it gets a bit closer so that they can do a drop off to a few of the places that are a bit further away, which is good. I think that's it. I think just keep an eye out. If we think of anything else, I will send out emails prior with another fact sheet of all the different things and the list to discuss like all your birds that you want to put in and stuff like that. So, but it will be very similar to last year's setup. Back to my agenda. The second last point was the Christmas party. So we've decided this year, because we don't have the hall, we're going to do it at the Smithfield Tavern. The committee have got together and discussed, and we thought that might be exciting to do that this year. The club will provide the food. We're paying a certain amount per head for everyone, and then there is a bar so people can buy drinks and things like that. It will still start at 7:30 on Wednesday. I don't know what the date will be.
8th.
Yeah, 8th, Wednesday the 8th. So it will actually be before the auction. So if you have any questions, then you can discuss those on the night of our Christmas party, which is kind of good. And I think that's something that Brian's put forward in the past, that it's good to have the party before our sale or auction so that we can fix up any issues that people might have. We will need final numbers though about probably a week or 2 weeks before the meeting so that we can let the tavern know so that they can provide catering and we can pay the final amounts and things like that. We are also going to still try and maybe do the normal Christmas party raffle that we do. We just have to finalize that, but we will send an email out if we are definitely doing that. And I'll send an email out within the next few days. If you could just reply back to that, give me a call or email if you are wanting to attend. That way I can have the final numbers so that we can pass that on. Was there anything else to mention with that, Sam or Brian? Sam and Brian found the place, so massive thank you to them, because I'm not in Sydney, so I don't really know the places down there.
No, I think that's good. Yeah.
I think after the 1st of December, they can serve platters. So we're probably going to be having platters, make it easier for rather than a sit-down meal. But I guess we'll let everyone know that when after. I'm not sure, Sam, whether you've made the booking or not yet. But
yeah, the booking's made, and we'll have to. I mean, I can put the menu up, but I mean, what are we going to do? We're all going to, 50 people are going to argue about.
No.
Well, probably not. The committee will make a decision.
You can blame the committee if you don't like what's on the menu. Yeah, I think it'd be easier. So, but for the way that's priced, we will need to know numbers. And you won't be able to ring up the day before and say, "Oh, can I come?" Because there won't be enough food, because we've got to book it in advance, the way they were saying. So whatever that cut-off date is, that'll be the date. So I presume it'll be members and their families as usual. So we just need to make sure that you give us just comply with whatever the date is we put out when we want replies back, please.
Yeah, and I'll send out an email probably within the next few days with that, so that we can start to get numbers early, and I might send like a few other reminders out. It's at a public place, being Smithfield Tavern, so it'll be whatever the current restrictions and guidelines are when it gets to that date. I think that date is still, everyone has to be double vaxxed to get into there, but just we can check that when it gets a bit closer as well. The last thing was the Richmond bird sale is the 27th?
21st.
21st. Did you want to mention it, Ivan? You'll cover it better than me.
No, just a quick one. Many of you probably know the Avocot Society of New South Wales having a bird sale on the 21st of November. It's their first bird sale. It was supposed to be in August, but it's been delayed. But the main thing for us is they've set aside 20 tables for bird clubs to promote themselves, and one of them is earmarked for our club. So I'm hoping to get at least 1 or 2 volunteers just to promote our club. It'll be very simple. Sam will provide the banners, and some membership forms, and whoever's manning the stand can also sell birds at no cost. So that'll be a little bit of a reward for spending a few hours there. And plus they'll get the first look of all the birds that are for sale. So I'd normally volunteer, but with this bird sale, they've got a couple of pavilions, and they've got one pavilion will be aviary birds, and another pavilion will be poultry and pigeons. And yours truly, after about 40 years without pigeons, I've got pigeons again, so I'll be helping them out in the pigeon pavilion. So unfortunately, I can't man the stand. So I'm hoping that if we can get at least 1 or 2 volunteers. So if you please let me know, my number's in the magazine. Otherwise, just email me, just ivan.cindric@bigpond.com. But I think it's too good an opportunity not to pass up, just to promote our club. It won't take long, but yeah, I think it's a worthwhile adventure for us.
Yes, thanks heaps, Ivan. Unfortunately, I can't attend. I have to work that day. But yeah, if anyone is interested, you can also contact me and I can forward it on to Ivan as well. But yes, exciting. The first bird sale back after a very long time, so it should be a good day for everyone. Did anyone else have anything that they wanted to discuss before we go on to the guest speaker tonight? Okay, well, tonight we have Peter McDonald, who's from the Queensland Finch Society. He's going to give us a presentation on green singers. Where did Peter go? Are you still with us, Peter?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect. Did you need to share your screen? I'll stop mine.
Okay, so I can see you. Right, are you ready? I'm ready for it if you are.
Yep, you can go right ahead. Thanks heaps, Peter.
Okay, thanks, Maddie. Okay, so can you see the screen, Green Singers?
No, not yet. Just try it again, maybe.
Well, it's on my screen.
Maybe just try going back onto like the Zoom page and trying the share screen button again. It should be at the bottom of your screen.
So this share screen.
Yep.
Where are we? Share screen green. Yep. Okay. What about now?
Mm,
No.
no, not yet. No. When you press the share screen button, it should come up with like all little boxes and you select the one that you want it to be.
Okay.
Click the blue share button.
What about?
There we go. Yep, we've got it now.
Righto.
Awesome.
So have you got the whole screen? Have you got the ribbon on the side as well? Or not?
Yeah, we've got the ribbon on the side.
Okay. Want to get rid of that ribbon.
Should be just down the bottom.
What about now?
Perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
we can see just the screen now.
Righto. Okay, so tonight's presentation, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm deeply honoured, by the way, is my experience with green singers. Okay, so are you seeing the next screen now? Okay, righto. So I'll record now my references, which are both Russell Kingston's books, an earlier book, and then the latest one, the Fincher Breeders' Companion. As you know, Russell departed this life shortly after the last convention. It was a big shock to everybody, but he left behind a legacy, which is 2 really great reference books. Okay, so the green singing finch, where does it come from? According to Russell, and he's been to Africa a few times, but I'm not sure whether he's been over the whole lot, but this is roughly the distribution of the green singing finch in Africa. And in his book, Russell says that there's 17 subspecies of the green singer. And speaking to people who have been in the Finch Society from pretty well from the day dot, and including Peter James, an old mate of mine, who was secretary back in the 70s when I was president, he says that there was 2 different subspecies and they were kept separately. They were the large and the little green singing finch, which obviously from the description of them was related to their size. But over the years, probably with shortages of cockbirds, hen birds, people have crossed them, and they've been fertile crosses, of course. And now we've just got one crossbred species in Australia, which we referred to as green singers. So this is the green, so this is an Australian green singing finch. It's not the large green singer and it's not the small green singer, but it's the bird that we have in Australia at the moment. And this is a cockbird in full colour. I'll show you a hen bird later. They're a beautiful bird. They're one of my favourites, not the favourite, but one of my favourites. When did they arrive? I was around I was very active in the 1970s. And I remember Russell had the first ones of the green singers that came to Queensland. I don't know where he got them from. And he in his book, he talks about his experiences with them. When they first hit the market here in Queensland in the 1970s, as with all species, when they first arrive, they're very expensive. The ones that we can breed survive, the ones that we can't breed just die off. And I think Aberdeen's, quite frankly, in that process of dying off at the moment. But in the 1980s, a little while after the green singer arrived, when you could buy a pair of cordons for $24, green singers were $180 to $200 a pair. So about 7-8 times the price of cordons. In the Queensland Finch Society's price guide in 2021, cordons are recommended at 75 and green singers 140. So they're under twice now the price of cordons, whereas back in the 80s, 30 or 40 years ago, they were 7 times the price. So we look at how we keep them. And it's interesting, if you've been to Asia, they're highly prized birds for singing competitions. They actually have competitions in Asia where they have singing competitions of their birds, and the green singers surprisingly outrank canaries as the number of birds that are kept for singing competitions. So they can be kept in a small cage or a small aviary with a small number of compatible species. They do better in larger cages, preferably with compatible species, and I'll mention what I mean by that later. Mine are in a well-planted aviary with large growing grasses, such as Johnson grass, green panic, and bamboos. They nest in dense shrubs or wire cylinders filled with bracken or branches for the nest sites. They tend to be a flighty bird. So when you catch them in a net, which isn't really easy to do, but of course, by good, they're about the only bird that I know that can fly into your catching net, do a U-turn and fly back out again before you have a chance to flick it over and catch them. So when they do go in a cage, they tend to panic a bit. So when you're transporting them, preferable to have a carry cage that's got some sort of rubber or a soft material on the inside of it. And throw a rag or a towel or something over them, and it helps to keep them quiet because they can bash themselves around. And make sure you got small aperture wire or they'll stick their heads through and strangle themselves. This is a photograph that I took years ago of the Asian markets where they have these small cages, and this is what they put their singing birds in, and they have their competitions. Beautifully ornate, these cages, and quite reasonable prices too. This is a bank of aviaries, just sort of pretty standard breeding aviaries of mine. There's 6 of them. I've just done them up a bit. This is what I call my large aviary. Just after I finished, it's pretty well overgrown now with grasses and all sorts of bamboos, etc. I've got weavers in there, so I've kept longer grasses. It's another shot of it. And I've got a second bigger aviary as well, but it's the big aviary where my green singers are. So I believe for breeding purposes, we all concentrate on what we're feeding our birds, but there's a lot of other things that go into successful breeding. One of the big no-nos is to overcrowd your aviaries. But there's also what I call compatibility. So obviously, if they're a single pair and they're in their own aviary, they're compatible with each other, hopefully. They can be housed as a colony, and you'll see photographs of my colony in the big aviary shortly. Always, like a lot of our species, produces more cocks than hens. They're in the big aviary, they're in a mixed collection of waxbills, there's blue caps, there's straubs in there, grass finches, and there's 2 weavers, Napoleons and grenadiers in the same aviary, and they all get on pretty well together. I've never heard of green singers hybridizing with anything else. To me, they're probably just that bit removed from most of the other African waxbills. But in a big aviary, and if you have a lot of what I call dominant species, such as red-faced parrotfinches, tricolour parrotfinches, and blackthroats, and I'll show you photos in a minute, they're dominated. The quieter species get dominated by these other species, red-faced parrotfinches, tries, blackthroats, and they don't do well. You might get the occasional nest, but generally speaking, those species, those 3 or 4, and longtails are a little bit in that line too. They dominate everything. They're the first ones down. Anything you put in, live food, bang, down there they are, woof the whole lot down, and there's nothing left for poor species that hang back. And I believe that's one of the most common reasons for failure to breed, what I call passive species, passive natured, as opposed to robust, aggressive species. And then, of course, the other thing, as I mentioned, is overcrowding, especially if you're overcrowding with dominant species. So here's what I call compatible species. You've got a green singer there at the feed bowl. That's live food there. There's some cucumber and some sweet corn there. Strawberry and blue cap. Pair of straws and the blue cap cockbird. They're all getting along quite nicely. This is early one morning. They're all up sunning themselves. There's even crimson finches there. Crimson cock you just saw. Crimson hen. A couple of straws. Crimson hen. Straw there. They're all getting along nicely. A blue cap hen. Crimson cock. Notice nobody's attacking, nothing's being attacked. There's straws there. I think there's straws up there. So they're all getting along quite nicely. But this is like the Mongrels Motorbike Club that's just arrived. All these blackthroats. If you've got a colony of blackthroats in your aviary, you put live food in, woof, down come the blackthroats, eat all the live food, and the other species that need live food, particularly singers and blue caps, get nothing because these boys will eat the whole lot. And not only will they eat the whole lot, but they'll take over all the nest sites. So if you've got a species that needs a nest box, you put a nest box in and you've got blackthroats in your aviary, this is what happens. Can you imagine a poor, passive, quiet natured little finch trying to get in there to take it over as his home for the future with the Mongrels Motorbike Club, taking it over as their headquarters. These are more incompatible species. Not so much Cubans, but red-faced parrotfinches. First one's down, or second one's down, and they woof into all the live food, and particularly mealworms they like. More incompatible species, tricolour parrotfinches. They're not quite as bad as the red-faced parrotfinches, but in my opinion, they will cruel the breeding results that you have for the more timid species. So the singers that we have, the Australian green singers, they're a very active bird, but they're passive natured. By that, I mean, they tend to keep themselves. When I come into the aviary, which I've been doing ever since most of them have been born, they're not the sort of bird that will come up to you. For example, the crimson finches will come up to you. The yellow siskins will come up to you. The red-faced parrotfinches will come up to you. But the green singers will keep their distance. They're very fast flyers and they're very agile. If you start swatting at them with a net, you can kill them very easily because they'll turn themselves inside out, fly upside down, hang off the wire, do everything to avoid being caught. So take care when you're catching them. Preferably have a system of catching that you don't need swatting at them with a net. They're non-violent to the other species in the aviary, but the cockbirds do become aggressive to each other during the breeding season. I've never known them to kill each other, but they turn into a big squabble between the cockbirds. This is I threw some live food down. I threw some seed down on the floor there a couple of months back when I took this. And this was, I think there's 19 I counted green singers along here. A couple of yellow siskins, blue caps, hen crimson, or we used to call them bloods, strawberries, straub, a couple of tricolour parrotfinches. Now, you probably say, well, hang on, you're just breaking your own rules. But this is a very large aviary. Remember, there's no red-faced parrotfinches in here anymore, and there's no blackthroats in here anymore. But it's a big aviary, and there's plenty of room to go around. There's a couple of, I think they're Napoleon weavers. So there's plenty of room for them to and that's a Jacquerini too. There's plenty of room for them to get their own little niche or their little area. And it's amazing how in a big area, a big aviary, some birds have this little area that it's like, this is my area, you stay away from it. And some of the species have their own area too, the weavers in particular. If I want to find my weavers, I know exactly what shrub to look in. And there they are sitting there, especially in the heat of the day. The singers, probably less so. The straubs, I know where they hang out. They like long grasses, green panic grass. They'll get in there during the day and they make their nests in the green panic grass. So this is cocks and hens all in here, big colony of them. They like to fossick on the ground, so you've got to be a bit careful with worms and fungal diseases, coccidiosis, and you need to worm them reasonably regularly. It's another little group of them there with a yellow-headed siskin. It's a little group of them down on the aviary floor with a blue cap and a tricolour parrotfinch and a weaver, and a yellow siskin hen, and a straub just came into the picture. This was around about the start of the breeding season that I took this little video. So you can hear in the background the cockbirds singing, which is their way of attracting the hens. We'll see some more of those shots in a minute. You know, one thing I can't work out is why they got called green singers, because there's not a green feather on them. They should be called, should be called yellow singers, I reckon. Where's the green feathers? Oh, maybe a little bit on the back. The predominant colour is yellow. Same sort of deal, getting on quite nicely with the other birds. That's a Napoleon weaver. That one is too, both Napoleons. Blue cap. That blue cap had a white feather for a long time, but it dropped out. It's been replaced. So he's not a mutation. So their diet, let's have a look at their dietary requirements. The basic for all of our finches, good quality seeds, feather in a mixed form or separately. They could exist for a short period on a seed and water only diet, but it's not recommended for them in the long term. It's certainly not recommended if you want to breed them. My birds get as many different seed heads as I can find around the place at different times of the year. They get corn on the cob every day, sometimes twice a day if they're really knocking it off. Lebanese, cucumber. They get slices in the morning and usually get slices again in the afternoon if they're knocking it off. Frozen green seeds. The seed that the Finch Society was getting from Lowe's. I don't think we got it again this year. Soak seed. So I soak my seed at least for overnight and preferably a full 24 hours. Sieve it and spray it with pressure spray with water. Probably some of it is sprouting by that stage, of course. So it's soaked and or sprouted seed. And when they've got young ones, I believe it's because well, if it was a baby person, we would say it was Firex because it's all soft and mulchy. And that's when you consider the tiny size of a baby finch, you can see that they need something soft and mulchy. They just can't swallow a full seed. They get charcoal to chew on, cuttlefish to chew on, vitamins and minerals, additives, LSA, which is I get from Woolworths. It's linseed, sunflower, and almond mix. It's in the health food section. It's a powder, and they pick through it. I suspect that they don't like the linseed because I think they're picking out all the white almond, and they leave what I believe is the linseed. And Gary Fitt's Fit Grit, they love that. During the breeding season, especially when they have chicks in the nest, both cock and hen particularly increase their feed demands. For example, they chase a lot more green food, soaked and sprouted seed, and live food such as mealworms, termites, or maggots. Termites or white ants are by far the most preferred. Mealworms also taken readily. I believe we're creating a problem for ourselves if we just feed white ants or termites. We used to call them white ants. Now they're termites because they are by far the most preferred. But if we're not careful, we'll get the birds, whatever species it is, addicted to taking termites as their live food, and they won't take anything else. So when a person who's bred their birds on termites sells them to the next person whose live food comes from maggots, you have a big problem trying to get them off being addicted to termites, white ants, and get them onto other forms of live food which are easier to supply, such as the mealworms or the maggots. Mealworms are also taken, even though they're not a very big bird, but they grab them in their beak and chew them backwards and forwards and basically suck the insides out of them. This is a hen bird. This is a cock. This could be a hen or it could be a juvenile. You can see them. This is the way I feed my cucumber. I slice it, and I've got a couple of different stations around in that big aviary. You can't just have it in one because the dominant species will take the whole lot. And so the slices of the cucumber and slices of corn, and I just stick it on nails, which are in a piece of wood. And I've got about 3 or 4 different spots around the big aviary where the birds come down and help themselves. It doesn't take long, of course, particularly for the cucumber to go soggy. So you've got to, if you're feeding cucumber, you've pretty well got to feed it every day. And the same with the corn too. I'll chew the whole lot down just till there's that white husk left. There's singers taking corn and cucumber here. So they chase the straw ball. There's a hen just come down. It looks like another hen. That was probably a cockbird that flew off. And here's a hen crimson finch, or blood we used to call them, and I think it's a hen. Yes, it's a hen green singer. So you can see the crimson's the boss, but he tolerates the singer. He's not attacking her and chasing her off. So the hens, in case you didn't know, have got the necklace, the same as the immature birds. So when you buy a pair, you've got to be a bit careful. You take them home, they look like this, and after a couple of weeks or a couple of months, they'll molt out, and what you think you got is a hen turns out to be a cockbird, and that's the same with quite a few of the species, of course. But the immature birds look like hens, and if you're not careful, you can pay $140 for a pair, and you end up with 2 cockbirds, and then you've got to try and find hens to go with your cockbirds. And not too many people in species that throw more cocks will then be silly enough to sell their hens separately, because then they end up with the cockbirds with a problem like what you've got. More corn and cucumbers, little colony of them down here, hen strawberry tucking into the cucumber. The first thing they eat in the cucumber is the seeds. They love that seed part, that central part. And that as they eat it, they work out towards the skin. So usually by the afternoon, if they're really tucking into the cucumber, all you're left with is a ring of skin around the outside. That's the sort of thing cockbirds do, just show that they're the boss. That's a hen crimson, or blood. So breeding and nesting, many of our introduced species have lost their breeding season, but the singers have retained a bit of a season from late summer through the winter months to the late winter and spring. My birds now, I'm pretty sure, my singers, I'm pretty sure have finished breeding. Their cockbirds aren't singing like they used to, and I haven't noticed any young chicks. The colour of the cockbirds intensifies. In colonies, cockbirds become more aggressive, and a fair bit of squabbling takes place. Never known any of them to kill each other. They're cup nesters. So their nests are quite small, open, cup-shaped affairs with no walls, no coverings. Fine grasses, or if you throw hessian strings in there, if you pull a hessian bag apart, they love that and line their nest with that. In my opinion and my experience, you should stay right away from them. Just leave them alone. Let them sit on their eggs. Don't go around lifting them off, having a look, because they'll desert. My birds, from experience, desert their nest if you start mucking around with them. I just leave them alone. If the eggs haven't hatched, then I get, after a couple of weeks, you note when they're on eggs, note in a couple of weeks' time, go over and go, what's going on? There's no sign of chicks. They're not down chasing live food. There mustn't be any chicks there. That's the time you go and do a nest inspection. And usually you find your eggs are infertile. Throw the eggs out and pull the nest apart, make them start again. Favourite position is for nests is in forks of the shrubs and small trees, forks. Nests can also be constructed inside nest boxes or discarded nests from others, especially weavers. Now, most people will tell you that singers don't nest in a nest box, but I'll prove to you that is wrong. They will nest in a nest box, but they still build a cup-shaped nest inside the nest box. I'll show you in a minute. Clutch size usually 3 eggs. Sometimes you have an infertile egg. When they leave the nest, they're really puny looking birds, like a lot of our species are. They look like they're only half cooked. The only time I would touch them is if it's cold weather and it looks like they're not going to get up off the floor. In the big aviary, that's a problem, because as soon as you come up to them to pick them up, they're off into the bush somewhere. So you can only do that sort of thing in a bank of aviaries where it's a fairly open floor. So here's the cockbird here singing to his mate. Cockbird, no necklace, nice deep yellow colour in breeding condition. And then along comes a hen, more muted colour, still singing, more muted colour with a necklace. Now, sometimes that necklace is a very defined dots, and other times it can even be just basically a smudge. But you can tell, compare that to that, and you'll see what I mean. This is, I call this Mick Jagger. This is him singing here to the hen. Most canaries would be only too happy to have a song like that. And here's another one, not a very good shot, but it's backlit. But anyway, this is him singing. I don't know what that is. I came along and chased him off. So nesting. Here's a cockbird with a mouthful of nesting material. And this is an interesting situation here. Okay, so see this. This is their cup-shaped nest in a traditional place, which is a fork in a tree. And this here is one chick that you can see just with his eye there. And this is the second chick. So they laid 3 eggs, 2 hatched. Now there's a story to this. Because I came up and interrupted or disturbed these 2 chicks, this chick decided to leave the nest. Didn't fly, can't fly. So he hopped away. So he's actually leaving the nest for the very first time there. That's his rump And this is the one who's not as well cooked as he is, and he got left behind. This is the one that got left behind, still only 3/4 cooked. See all the pups all around the edge of the cup-shaped nest. So he got left behind and he survived. But this was the one that departed the nest early. He hung around the feed area, looked weak, wasn't getting fed. And there he is again. As you can see, he's still only like another 3 or 4 days and he would have been right. She. But it died. And I reckon it died because I went up poking around at the nest trying to get some shots for this video or for this presentation. And that chick decided to leave the nest. Okay, this is a weaver nest. And down the bottom here, they've made a cup-shaped nest down the bottom of the weaver's nest. Singers. That's a juvenile cockbird. He's not in full, he's lost his necklace, but he's not in full breeding condition. And his feathers, if you look at them, they're not nice and tight feathers. They're sort of like fluffy almost, you would describe them as. So that's a juvenile cockbird. So they've all got that fluffy coat until they get into breeding condition. For that reason, it's easy to assume that a young bird is a hen, which turns out to be a cock when it is fully coloured. It's difficult to acquire hens without paying full price for them, for a pair. So don't get sucked into buying young birds that haven't been DNA sexed. It costs $9 or $10 to get a bird DNA sexed. When you're paying $140 for a pair, I'm an old banker. That's the best investment you'll ever make, is pay $10, get the bird DNA sexed, and then you know exactly what it is. If you've already paid for it, you get a DNA sex and it turns out to be another cockbird, jump in your car and race around and get your money back ASAP. I've never seen a cockbird attack his chicks or any other chicks. In conclusion, they're a hardy bird that fits in well with a mixed collection, but they're not a beginner's bird. They must have a varied diet with a mix of seeds, including canary seed. They need green food, seed heads, live food, corn, cucumber, all bits and pieces that beginners think that they can just feed seed and water and the birds will breed their tails off it. It's not that easy. Not with, it's all right if you're breeding zebras, but not when you get into the more specialised species. Just getting back to what I was talking about, compatible and incompatible species. Do not overcrowd your aviaries with green singers, especially with dominant species such as blackthroats, parrotfinches, and longtails, and possibly even tricolour parrotfinches. Do not mix them with zebras and Bengalese. Don't even think about putting zebras and Bengalese if you expect to breed green singers. Do not interfere with, this is one of my pet hates, is coming along sticking your finger in any of the species nests, with the exception of zebras or possibly Gouldians. Do not interfere with them once the nesting has commenced. Leave them alone. That's the end of the green singers. But when I was down there, I keep Napoleons in the same aviary and I couldn't help myself. I had to, this is the display that weavers bung on to attract the hens. Okay, so that's definitely the end. Thank you very much for that. I've enjoyed the presentation, or enjoyed doing the presentation. I hope you have.
That was awesome.
Thank you, Maddie.
Thanks heaps, Peter. That was really, really interesting. They're a bird that Dad and I have always wanted to keep. He used to have them when he was younger, but we've not had them in our aviaries. They are very, very cool though.
Okay.
There was a few questions from David Pace. His first question was, what's your favourite finch, Peter?
Blue cap.
They're a nice bird.
And the singers come probably second, but definitely blue caps.
I must admit, your blue caps when I was up there last time were amazing.
At the convention.
Yeah.
No, thank you. They're a difficult bird to breed. And remember I said about how they become addicted to termites?
Yeah.
Well, the people that are the big breeders of blue caps breed with termites. That's their only source of live food. And birds, you know, we say if you foster parent birds, they can become imprinted with the foster parents. Well, I believe they can become imprinted with other things too. And I believe they become imprinted with termites as a source of their live food. And they don't recognize anything else except termites, which is a bit of a pain if you're a person who's just breeding maggots and or mealworms, and all your birds are sitting on that. I've been into the aviary with, I've got a couple of pair of Aberdeens and they've been bred on termites. I go in there and I can spread out a tray full of maggots. The Aberdeens come down, sit on the edge of the tray, don't even take a peck at the maggots and fly off. I go and get a termite nest, put a tiny handful of termites, boom, they're down. Woof, 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 woof. They're knocking off the termites left, right, and centre. And that's because they're addicted to termites. It's a pain. And that's what's happened with a few of our species. And we've got to break that cycle. And it'll be probably a couple of generations before we can unimprint the termite addiction that they have.
Yeah, I think Dad and I have found that as well with a few of ours. Like, we're very careful. I think a lot of people are now. When you buy from people, you've really got to ask them what they've been fed on, because otherwise they might just sit there for 2 years and never do anything.
Yeah.
And as you said, because they're addicted, they're wanting those white ants.
Yeah.
Next question, and if anyone else has questions, feel free just to unmute yourself, was regarding diet and live food. Do you feed them crickets?
No.
No crickets?
No.
And then the last question from David was regarding housing 2 species of weavers.
Yep.
Have there been any issues with hybridization?
No. Because species that I know they're both weavers, but they're not closely related. Totally different colours, of course, and even a different size. So they're not closely related weavers. And I know there's a lot of species of weavers in Africa, and I'm sure there would be some species that would be closely related, you know, that live in a different part of the continent. But the Napoleons and the Grenadiers that I've got, I've never had any problems with them crossing, as we say. But they don't seem to be the slightest bit interested in each other.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Does anyone else have any questions? And there's a fair few people still on YouTube. So I've got the comment section from YouTube up. So if anyone wants to ask questions on YouTube, I can say them for you on here for Peter.
Yes, Peter, Bob Bones. I was surprised you've got yellow siskins in with the singers. I breed mine in much smaller flights than you're talking about.
Yeah.
But my siskin cocks and singer cocks hate each other.
Do they?
And almost every time I've ever put them together, even to the extent of fighting between the wire and adjoining flights.
Yeah. I've got yellow siskins in adjoining aviaries, the 2 big aviaries that I showed you there, and they fight through the wire. but I've never seen them fighting with the green singers. See, it's a different dynamic. A big aviary is a different dynamic to small aviaries. You know, they can get away from each other and they can have their own little area. So I think there's less problems with that. I wouldn't. I hear what you're saying, because I wouldn't recommend yellow siskins really as a particularly good species to have in a mixed collection. I know I've got them in there, but it might be the last year I have them in there. They're not a good compatible bird, really. And if you bred them up to numbers like I showed you with those black throats, I don't think you'd have anything else breeding in the aviary. I've only got one pair in each of the big aviaries, and I take the young ones out at the end of the season. So,
yeah, I don't think I could keep two cockbirds together for any length of time at all.
No. What, two cockbirds, siskins?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, me neither.
Even in my bigger aviaries, I think they wouldn't coexist. They'd spend their life
Yeah, I agree.
fighting each other.
I agree. As it is, they're already spending enough time up at the wire having a go at each other, and probably, and I'd probably breed more of them if I didn't have them in adjoining aviaries. So.
You're a similar vintage to me, I think, Pete. But right back in the 70s, when we first got the chance with singers, the big singer was probably the most common.
Was it?
But a few of us got hold of a bird we used to call the Cape singer, which was like a 50% bigger again. I think there was only ever a handful of pairs available, but they got lost in the blend as well, I think.
Yeah. Well, Peter James, who's been a member for years, said that he had the big singer.
Yeah.
And they were kept as two separate species. But as I say, now we've got an Australian singer.
That's right.
Nick Bourne in Queensland, if you ask him, has he got the Queensland star or has he got the Western Australian star? And his answer is, I've got my stars.
Yeah, well, that's true too.
Yeah.
That's the same with orange breasts and cordons, if the truth be known.
Yeah.
I think, I was lucky enough to have blue caps and blue breasts and everything else back in the 70s. And I know, when I went to get new blood for blue-breasted, they'd start to get cheek patches, and they were soon lost,
Yeah. I'll tell you the truth, I've never even seen a blue-breasted. Seen the red cheeks and the blue caps, but I've never seen a bird that professes to be a blue-breasted.
So there was even two cordons, two red cheek cordons, Angolan and the one we call the normal cordon now.
Yeah.
The Angolan was less intense blue, but a bigger bird.
Okay. People that have been to Africa tell me that there's the most common bird that they see over there is the blue-breasted cordons.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, thanks for that.
It's all right.
Okay, Peter, I've got a question for you.
Yes.
In my experience, I've got always green singer in my ivory. Every home I've been from South Australia, I've got a very bad experience about the Cuban. Cuban killed my green singer.
Yeah.
And I see in your ivory Cuban.
Yeah.
How you manage with this?
Well, once again, it's a big aviary. I didn't have a lot of Cubans, and it's a big aviary.
Okay, I understand.
Yeah. So they've got their own little cubby holes, sort of thing.
I'm so many green single lost because the Cuban.
Yeah.
I separate, build another ivory, and This problem gone.
Yeah. Well, I actually had a small colony of Cubans. Everybody says, "Oh, you can't have 2 Cuban cockbirds; they'll kill each other." Well, if you
Very vicious.
if you throw another Cuban cockbird in there that they've never seen before, they'll all gang up on him. But if you leave the chicks in the aviary, and even when they're mature, they get on right. Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I always recommend that don't keep together Cuban and green singer. Cuban don't like yellow color.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No worries.
Did anyone else have any questions or comments for Peter?
Oh, just a moment.
Yes.
I've got about the 1.5 months free chicken from the green singer. Two boys and 1 girl.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
How long I must be keeping? Because I'm a little bit scary because my cock is aggressive. He chasing another bird like the chasing weavers, Napoleon rivers.
Yeah.
And can I, because the ivory now, I live in this different place. I've got a very small ivory, and maybe I need the chicks start eating yourself.
Yeah.
I think it's the time to take it.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
Take it in from
better to take it out once you know that they're looking after themselves, feeding themselves. If it looks like there's going to be a problem,
yes,
pull them out. Yeah.
Yes, I don't like the problems.
No.
Okay, thank you very much. Nice
No worries.
to meet you.
Any more questions?
That might be it. Thank you so much, Peter. It was a really, really good talk.
Okay, thanks, Maddie.
Thanks, mate.
Can I?
And then just one last thing that I saw on YouTube, I think it's Ian commented about the auction. I will send a link with in an email in the next few days about the auction.
Okay. Just before I go, can I do a plug for the Finch Society's handbook?
Yes, of course.
It's just been finished, and I mean just been finished. So we've been in the process of doing this. We've got a handbook for Australians, volume 1, and then the volume 2 ran out quite a few years ago, and it's quite a big book full of colour. There's an article on every species of foreign finch that we are aware of in Australia, and we're selling them for $25 plus postage. Volume 2 handbooks. If you want the volume 1 and the volume 2, they're $35 plus postage.
Awesome.
Peter, is that an updated edition or is it a reproduction of the original?
No, it's an updated one. So
Okay.
There's articles in there about birds that weren't even in the first one, and they're all different colour, all different photographs, etc. too. But the most of the articles have been rewritten or updated. Yeah, it's not just a reprint of the last one.
Awesome.
Ben, just thinking for our sales table, because we do have the other book on our sales table. Ben can contact you, Peter, then and order a box, I guess, for our club.
Contact our sales table. They've got the bulk supply of them.
Yeah.
Chris Leaper.
Because it is definitely a must-have.
Yeah.
We've got, I think, one of the original ones.
Yeah, we got the original purple one.
Oh yeah.
I've got it.
Can I ask if the Australians book is also a reprint or a revised edition?
No, it's the original one. We've still got about 500 of them left. Whoever did a reprint of volume 1s, which is the Australians, got a bit carried away, and we've still got heaps of them from the original print. Oh no, well, it would have been a second printing, but it's all the original articles. But volume 2 is a brand new book.
Yeah, I think I submitted an article for that on the yellow siskin.
Did you?
But it was about 8 years ago. So good to know that it might have got published now.
Quality takes time.
Just a comment for Bob Barnes. When I was in Victoria, I was breeding green singers and yellow siskins in the same aviary as well. So I suppose it can and does happen.
Okay.
Without any aggression. So yeah, go figure.
I'll send you down some of mine. That'll liven your average up.
Awesome. Well, it was another really enjoyable meeting. Next month will be our Christmas party, so we won't be having a Zoom meeting. And then we don't have a meeting in January, so we won't be back until February now if you're from interstate and won't be at the Christmas party. So massive thank you to everyone for their support over the last few months on Zoom. It's really appreciated. And we will see everyone in the new year then if we don't see you at the Christmas party. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Peter. Thanks, Matty. See you later.
Matty.
Thanks all. See ya.
Bye.
Thanks, Matty. See ya.
Bye.